Hi there. We are here today with myself, Marika, with PR by the Book, and Andy O'Brien, who is the author of Ta-da! WTF Was I Thinking? Family Business. And we wanted to talk a little bit today about the role of author and publicist and how these relationships come about and what comes from the work between an author and publicist. So thanks for being here, Andy.
Oh, thank you for having me. I've learned so much from you and your team.
Well, I first want to talk about just a little tad about your background so we know where you're coming from with this book. And then we'll get into kind of the story of what brought you to the point where you are now, a successful author.
Oh, thank you. All right. So first, grew up in a family-owned and operated business. I joke with many people, I'm an SOB, which is son of boss. And I had a lot of learnings, a lot of trials. I was the loudmouth kid who knew everything when I was, before I was 22, just ask me. And I learned a lot that way. I learned a lot of things that I had this huge fight with my dad. Anyway, long and short was, grew out of that, started our own business, started a business with my wife. Jody and I have worked together for the last 32 years in a multitude of roles, and it's a gift and a curse. But most of the clients in our coaching business have been husbands and wives and small business owners and brothers and sisters and uncles and family. So this is really where my passion lies, is with that family business owner.
And so you knew, like a lot of people out there, that you wanted to put this into a book. And talk about that process when you knew that you were going to write a book. Talk about the process of where you were going to go from there.
Oh, great question. First, for all the listeners out there, I didn't know what I was doing, but I started getting feedback from my clients, like, you should write a book and you
Mm-hmm.
should do this. And then I put it away because I was afraid. And
Mm-hmm.
then we put out an email and said, hey, to all of our clients, this was about 8 years ago. We said, hey, if I was going to write a book, what would be the one lesson you'd want me to write about? And they sent me email after email after email about things I should write about. So we did that, and then I froze. And then I completely froze. And I'm like, I have this thought. And I sat down in front of a computer, and then nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And then nothing, and then nothing, and then nothing. And then I started dabbling and writing in it, and I started getting some data points down. And then we met, and I started asking you all these questions, and you were like, well, do you want to learn this? And do you want to do this? And do you want to do this? And I was like, I'm a very high eye. My attention to detail is the span of a gnat flying through the room. I was like, no, I don't want to know any of that shit. I'm having a hard enough time over here. So,
So that conversation, we were trying to figure out, was the self-publishing route a good one for you,
right.
or was hybrid the way that you should go? Because at that point, out of the three publishing paths, traditional, hybrid, and self-publishing, you knew you weren't going to go the traditional route. You knew that you wanted to get this done and get it out there. And that's why we were talking through some of these questions of, well, do you want to be responsible for these things, or do you want to have somebody who is a professional handle these for you? And you knew after that conversation that you wanted to go the hybrid publishing route.
Yeah, you made it so vividly clear in the learnings. And so many people are like, oh, you can do it. And there's AI. And well, it was before AI completely, but they're like, oh, you can do this and it doesn't take
Mm-hmm.
much. Well, the reality is that's crap. That
Mm-hmm.
is total crap. If you're really highly organized and a super C and your attention to detail is there, then perfect. But mine isn't. So
Mm-hmm.
when you were talking to me and educating me on this, I knew immediately when you said you want to learn, no, well, what about the
Yeah.
publisher and this? And I'm like, okay, that seems reasonable,
Mm-hmm.
affordable too, because I didn't know what I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was such a journey, a
And what
hard journey.
a lot of authors don't realize is that also getting the book written, having it published is then only a part of the work, because
Yeah.
most people think, oh, well, then once I hit those two milestones, then I'm done. Somebody's going to do the rest for me. People are just going to hear about my book and they're going to come flocking to me and buy. And that's a myth, as we
Yep,
both
I was
know.
that guy. Like, oh, this is how it works.
Yeah.
Totally wrong. Totally wrong. That is not even like, yeah, what did we call it? It used to be the black hole of bookshelves. Now it's the black hole of Amazon. That's where it was going
Mhm.
to stay.
Mhm.
It was unbelievable, the journey and in all the intricacies that your
Mhm.
team knows, the people that to this day I have no idea how it works. And I don't want to know.
Yeah.
We
Because
want
we've been helping you on this journey for a handful of months now. So when we started talking about publicity, you and I were looking at a 6-month timeline, which is really what I recommend to people. So many people think, oh, can I do it in 2 or 3 months? And I always tell people, when you're publicizing a book, it is like an analogy of riding a wave into the shore, because it builds and it builds and it builds, and you just ride that wave and ride that momentum. And it is a marathon and not a sprint. And so you and I are kind of in our 6th month of working together, and
yes.
things are still building, and they will continue to build. And when people look at too short of a timeline, they're really cutting off their possibilities, because they're not letting that campaign build and get that momentum and get bigger and bigger and bigger. And talk a little bit about how you think it would be if you didn't have publicity for this book.
Oh, I can tell you exactly what it'd be. Zero. It would be, I always joke when my kids were young, and there's that age when they, 12, 14, where you go from hero to zero. My theme
Mhm.
song was the theme from Hercules, Hero to Zero. But
Mhm.
the point is like the only people that would know about my book would be the sphere of influence and the people I handed it to, which
Mhm.
is a very, very small, minuscule sample.
Mhm.
With you guys at the wheel, and I say that caringly because I'm in the back seat just writing, because we've done so many different interviews at so many different stations that are, whether it's TV, radio, magazine, print. You and your team have done all of this stuff. You've set it all up. I wouldn't know the first place to start. And I think right now we're 7 interviews to date, plus 3 or 4 publishes, plus I think there's 3 or 4 more in the books just that I know of. And I know your
Mhm.
team and Taylor handle all that, but there is no comparison, the professionalism that your company adds to a book that any one person can do, because we can't do it. I'm
Yeah.
telling all of you out there, you may think I promise you don't even know what you don't know yet.
Well, and on that note too, that segues into my next point, is that a lot of what we do at PR by the Book is based on relationships, because we've been at it 2 decades. And so, based on just a little segue from what you just said, there's 2 television segments that are hanging out there that I just need to do probably one more follow up on. And I'm going to get a yes from those 2, because I've already told them about you. I already have the relationship, and there's several more check boxes of why you're a good fit for those shows. But even 6 months in, I just need to send one more follow up. So things, number one, they don't happen just, even though I know these people, they know me, we work together. It's not an overnight yes. Sometimes it does take follow up. And then also, it's a combination here at Pair by the Book of us going back to people who we have relationships with, and then daily contacting new people daily. We're consistently looking up, who is a good fit for this project, who is a good fit for this book, to be talking about this book. So we're forging those new pieces of communication daily, but we're also balancing that with people that we have that credentialing with because they've worked with us. And I think, when authors are trying to do it on their own, they're missing some of those pieces. They don't have the relationships already built up. They don't know the right things to say and the right way to say them and being concise. And they don't know how many times it takes to follow up. And so it's a lot of those different pieces of the pie that make it important to have a book publicist promoting the book, or else,
Absolutely.
there it sits on the electronic bookshelf.
I laughed. It's so funny. I mean, thank you for the credit of the book, but I always tell people like how her and her team. I'm just lucky. It's her and her team. They do all the heavy lifting. I get there. People pull excerpts out of it, or they've seen some of it, and then I actually hand them the book like yesterday, and they're going through it, and they've had such a good relationship with you and your team. It was hysterical. I sat there early talking to Kim yesterday just about you and your company and the lives that you've touched. And it was just like, oh yeah, I'd be nowhere without Pure by the Book.
Oh, well, we love our authors too, and this is such a fun topic to be promoting also. And that's helpful. I mean, it's an important piece for us that we're promoting things that we believe in and that we think are quality. And of course, we know the intricacies of running a family business and being part of a family business on different levels. And so it really helps when the publicist connects
Yeah.
with the topic as well.
I find that is really interesting. Even people in the radio station yesterday were like, "Oh, I need to give this to my mother, my
Mhm.
sister," and it's
Yeah.
it's the book title. We've changed it. People can add their acronyms, what the family, but if I look back at my 14-year history in coaching businesses, that is the number one response that I have gotten from people in family business. They're
Hmm.
like, "Oh yeah, that's because it's hard.
Hmm.
You work with the person you love, you spend 24/7 with them, and when there's no bumpers on the bowling alley, things can get kind of spicy. And I'm not
Hmm.
talking fun spicy.
Right. The board meeting at the dinner table spicy.
Yes. Christmas, Thanksgiving,
Yes.
birthday parties, anniversaries, those are the ones that always we all struggle with. We
Well,
all do.
Andy, it's funny because now I think about you when I'm sitting there at the dinner table. It happened just a few nights ago, and I'm about to bring up a business topic. I think about you. You're like the little angel on my shoulder going, "Are you sure this is the right time to be talking about family business?" So it's seeping into my consciousness constantly. But tell us a little bit about, you're in a particular brand of author where you can use this book as a calling card for your business, for your brand. So talk a little bit about that, how you're utilizing the book in your own business world.
Well, that's a great question. It has been so first let me start with I know seem really confident, but I still have all those thoughts, in my head about am I worthy, right? So
Mm.
as this has
Imposter
gone on and
syndrome?
more publicity, what's that?
Imposter syndrome?
Yes, yes, that's
Yes.
exactly it. Yes. So, but it's the whole part of it. And as I've grown to love it, we haven't been out that long. And now with people, especially when I give this to a person in any sort of meeting, it's like an immediate connection. It's an immediate they just look at the titles of the book, they'll open to a page, they call me, they're like, I can hear you saying this stuff out loud because they know me. And
Yeah.
it's been very beneficial.
Hmm.
I don't know that it's led to business. I know it, I don't know it because I haven't tested and measured it yet, but I know it has drawn people into different conversations,
Hmm.
and those conversations of just, what is it like working with my brother? What's it like working with my partner? How does this tie?
Hmm.
Every one of us have different relationships. So this book is really an icebreaker, and I give it to them before anything. Hey, I just wanted you to thank you for joining me today for this coffee meeting here. I just brought you a gift. And as soon as that happens, people just their guard goes down and we just have a comical conversation because I
Mhm.
wrote it in that humorous version to allow people to have levity.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, and I think you do a really great job in the book of bringing in your style of humor and also approaching potentially difficult topics with it. So, you blend, like you said, it's your voice. So you blend in your voice to get the point home about topics that can be very serious when you're talking about working within a family business. So it is an important topic for people to get educated on and to have continuing education on. And so the book really fills a need. So,
Thank you.
well, you and I could sit here and talk all day about this. We know our personalities and how much we believe in what we're talking about here, books and publicity. But thank you so much for being with us today and talking a little bit about the process of an author working with a publicist. And is there any last information that you would want to tell an up and coming author about this journey?
Absolutely. Absolutely. First thing I would tell you from an up and coming author, even an author who has already written a book and it's sitting on a shelf, call your company. Call you today because it is absolutely amazing. As a business generalist, we think we know, but we don't know. Your team, this PR, this 20-year journey you've been on has opened my eyes as a publisher just to all the intricacies.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're like me and you want to just get to the point, you don't want to have to spend time doing it, hire PR by the book tomorrow. Call them, get engaged, and six months from now, you'll be having the same conversation with Marika that I am like, oh my God, it was amazing. I can't believe I'm on this show and I'm on this show and these people are hilarious. And one radio show, there was the voice of God coming over the radio. So
That doesn't
yeah,
happen every day, right?
yeah, exactly. So yes, call you today.
Well, we love happy clients, and that's really important to us. Our team is amazing, and they work really hard day in and day out to make sure our clients are happy with PR by the book. So thank you for that, and thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.